Hey guys, what is up, and I welcome each and every one of you to a new League of Legends video. So today we'll be taking an early look into patch 8.10 on the PvE server because there are some massive changes coming over. So if you end up enjoying this video, then don't forget to hit that like button. But this video will be made in collaboration with ProGuides, a website that tries to improve your overall League of Legends gameplay and knowledge. I'll have a link to the website down below, definitely check it out. So let's start by talking about the ADC rework. Now there is essentially a massive overhaul coming to the ADC role in general, because this role has had way too many problems recently, becoming just way too strong and way too impactful, and the whole coin flip meta down in the bot lane, and pretty much whichever team four-man's bot first ends up usually winning the game and things like that, and it's really just not healthy for the game in general. So there are not only changes coming over to champions as a whole, but they're also changing and reworking and even adding new items and new keystones specifically for this role. So starting things off, probably the most basic change of this list is going to be to every single ADC, where every single ADC had the armor lowered, they had their HP and HP per level increased, but they've had the HP regeneration lowered. In other words, their overall defenses are slightly more general, so it's less good against each other, but better against things like Zarya or Nami. But like I said, that's just the most basic, boring part. Let's get into the actual juicy information. So starting things off, we have a completely new item. It is called Stormrazor. Now this one is going to be costing you a total of 3,400 gold, which is definitely on the more expensive side, building out of a BF sword, a pickaxe, a dagger, and almost 1,000 gold for the recipe itself. The stats offered are plus 65 attack damage, plus 25% attack speed, and 2 unique passives, one of which states, if you haven't attacked in the last 2.5 seconds, your next basic attack will critically strike, and the other one stating, unique passive, when you critically strike, gain 25% attack speed and 8% movement speed for 1.5 seconds. Now keep in mind, they're trying to mainstream the ADC role in general, right? Because at the moment, they state how if you get just Infinity Edge plus some form of Zeal item, like maybe a Hurricane or a Static Shiv or a Rapid Fire Cannon, just those two items alone usually makes a crit carry marksman the most valuable champion for their team, regardless of how ahead or behind they are, just because of what they bring to the table already. So they want to push back that moment of turning on, so early failure is appropriately punished, and going even in lane doesn't guarantee dominance in the mid game, which is pretty much the way it should be. But on the flip side, if people play things that are not crit carry hyperscaling ADC type champions or builds, and if you play something else like on hit or even other things as well, then they're actually going to try and make those a little bit better overall. And that's kind of the TLDR as to what the goals are for the current ADC rework as a whole. But going back to the item Stormrazor, again, the new item coming to League of Legends for specifically the ADC role, though you can use it on other champions as well, it is pretty damn good. Now, I don't really know how you want to use it on ADCs to begin with. I mean, I'm not really sure how the builds will actually even look like for ADCs at the very moment, since all these changes are very new, but it's definitely an interesting take, because even if you get this item as maybe item number 2 or even 3 or something like that, as long as you consistently keep getting crit items later on and maybe you start actually getting a good amount of crit chance, even then you'll still have the other unique passive where you just consistently get plus 25% attack speed and plus 8% movement speed for 1.5 seconds, which is pretty damn good regardless. Next, I want to quickly talk about the new keystone that'll be hitting the PvE servers called Hail of Blaze, and it's going to be a domination keystone. It does the following: gain 50 to 100% attack speed for the first 3 attacks made against an enemy champion. No more than 1.5 seconds can elapse between attacks or this effect will end. And of course, Hail of Blaze allows you to temporarily exceed the attack speed limit. It's very interesting that this is getting put into the domination path rather than the precision path, since it is of course an ADC tailored keystone as far as I'm aware. But the part where it says no more than 1.5 seconds can elapse between attacks is great, because it pretty much makes it so that only champions that actually have attack speed already in their kits and or of course having attack speed items can actually use this keystone, unless 50 to 100% attack speed is enough to kind of make that second part of it not an issue. But moving on, we also have some changes coming over to Last Whisper. Now the armor penetration on this item as a whole has been changed from being from bonus armor only to now being a percentage of the armor in general. So for instance, the Last Whisper itself, the base form, is now instead of 35% bonus armor, it's now 10% total armor. And then as we move into Lord Dominic's Regard, no longer will this have extra damage based on the HP difference. Instead, now at a little bit of an extra cost, it'll now give you plus 35% total armor penetration. While Mortal Reminder will still give you the Grievous Wounds, however, to kind of compensate for that extra effect compared to Lord Dominic's Regard, it'll now only give you plus 25% total armor penetration rather than 35%. This is actually a massive buff, especially for AD assassins, because they don't care about the bonus armor penetration. They're not killing champions that are getting bonus armor, right? I mean, maybe they will eventually, but that's not their primary target. Their primary target are people that usually will have maybe 1 armor item at most. So having total armor penetration is a massive buff to champions again like Zed, Talon, etc. But then as we move into the zeal items, we have first of all the actual zeal item itself, now costing you an extra 100 gold. Then you have rapid fire cannon costing you 200 extra gold, along with static shiv, Runan's hurricane, and phantom dancer as well. Again, they are essentially trying to nerf the whole crit build and make it a little bit slower of a build and not power spike as early, which is why you see the increase in costs. But it obviously begs the question, well, if all these changes are happening to crit items, what is going on with Infinity Edge? Let's take a look at that next. Costing you 3700 gold with the double BF sword plus an 1100 gold recipe, the attack damage being increased from 70 to 80, it now no longer gives you increase in critical strike damage. Instead, now it has two unique passive effects. The first of which states it doubles your critical strike chance. So you can't get Infinity Edge first anymore because, well, you have no critical strike chance to actually double to begin with. Next, we also have 20% of all critical strike damage is now converted to true damage. This is obviously a buff towards attacking tanks, which is what the ADCs are usually attacking to begin with, which makes a lot of sense. But if you're using this to attack a squishy target or an assassin or something like that, it should in theory be a little bit less damage overall. But moving along, we also have a rework coming over to Essence Rework, because now this item just gives you completely new effects. For 3200 gold, building out of a very similar build path, the cooldown reduction has been increased from 10% to 20%. It no longer gives you critical strike. It no longer grants additional CDR based on critical strike as well. It has a new changed effect where now it grants 1% of missing mana on hits, and it has a new effect that states the following. For 8 seconds after your ultimate, gain 30% attack speed, and basic attacks refund 20% of your remaining non-ultimate cooldowns. So imagine this on someone like Lucian. This is absolutely just gorgeous for him. And maybe even someone like Kai'Sa could benefit off of this by quite a bit as well. Following that, we have a quick buff coming over to Blade of the Rune King and the Bloodthirster, both now costing you 200 gold less than what it is currently on the live servers. We have an overall buff to Maw of Malmorias, giving you an increase in AD and MR, and also the shield value has been changed from 300 plus 100% bonus MR to just flat 350, which I think is overall better on the champions that would usually want to build this item. And the final change for the ADC rework is going to be for the Guardian's Angel. The total cost now is 2800 gold, building out of a BF sword, chain vest, stopwatch, and 100 gold, increasing the AD offered from 40 to 45, and it now offers you 40 armor rather than just 30. So I'm sure that was quite a lot to take in, but unfortunately we cannot stop there just yet because we have to go into some massive changes coming to the jungle as well. So starting things off, let's talk about Scuttle Crab first, because this thing got changed as well. Now apparently, again, keep in mind this may change over time. 2 Scuttle Crabs still spawn on both sides as per normal, but when both of them are killed, only one will spawn at a random side at any given point in the game, rather than consistently both of them respawning at their own respective time. Scuttle Crab now also offers you less experience at the earlier levels, but it'll actually give you more experience as you level up. Or in other words, as the Scuttle Crab is being spawned at only one of the 2 areas, that's when usually it'll start giving you more experience. And the same with the gold offered earlier at the beginning, but more gold later into the game. They're also thinking of changing the way the camp respawn timers work overall. So rather than being 2 minutes and 30 seconds, they want it to be 2 minutes and 15 seconds instead, but they say that this is still heavily in testing. And they believe having the camps respawn quicker will offer actually more options than what they initially thought before, being less options. So since your camps are respawning faster, you have to think about, your clears more often, and maybe if you go invader, if you go for a gank, then you have to plan it more accordingly, since now your spawns will be faster, you have to be back there to clear once again in a much more quick fashion, and you just have a lot less time to waste and everything matters a lot more. But next up, let's move on to the 2 jungle starting items. Hunter's Machete. No longer does this item grant you bonus attack speed, but it now gives you 10 extra bonus damage against monsters. And Hunter's Talisman no longer gives you 150% base mana regeneration, it now gives you 30 health steal rather than just 25, and it has a new effect that states the following: while in the jungle or the river, regenerate 8 mana per second based on your missing mana. And the final thing to the jungle changes is a slight iteration of Runic Echoes, because at the moment AP junglers are almost non-existent, and you can see here on your screen the current one that they're testing. The main differences here is now it offers you 10% CDR and 300 mana as opposed to what it does currently. Now let's talk about some champions more specifically, the first of which being Azir, because his mini rework is finally on the PvE server. Some tweaks to his base stats where the base HP has been lowered, but the attack speed per level has been increased. The damage on his Q ulti has been overall increased as well, which is great. But then we have some changes coming over to the way his W works. The recharge time has actually been lowered to 6 at all ranks rather than starting at 8. The AP ratio has been lowered, the cost has been lowered, but the damage has also been changed. So now instead of being based on level, it now goes from 60 to 140 based on the level of the ability. The base attack speed offered by W has been lowered, but the additional attack speed has been increased. But here's the part that can actually be quite a big difference. The first of which being a nerf to where now the duration of the Sand Soldiers has been changed from 10 seconds at all ranks to starting at 4 and then only being 10 seconds by rank 5, which is of course a lot less of a duration. And now the Sand Soldiers can attack targets outside of Azir's basic attack range with a lot more range, which is great for Azir. But the Sand Soldiers now deal 50% damage to minions that are not their primary target. Following this, we also have some changes coming over to his E ability, where all in all they just made it so that when you do use it, it's much more impactful, but you can't misuse it because the cooldown has been increased by quite a bit. On top of also the mana cost being increased by a lot as well. And last but not least, the damage has been changed on his ultimate to be a bit better at ranks 1 and rank 2, but a bit less at rank 3. I'm also thinking of making an Azir mini rework gameplay video from the PvE server, and if that's something that you want to see, then let me know by hitting the like button on this video. So let me know what you guys think about these changes down below for Azir. Following this, the Rise rework is back on the PvE server. Now I believe it is actually the exact same as it was before, so I'm not gonna go over too much. The only difference I can see is the fact that the change on his ultimate is actually no longer added. But again, that can all change on the PvE server, so it's nothing final. I'm not gonna go over once again because I did talk about it before, so you'll see it on the side of your screen here if you want to take a look. And the final thing I wanted to talk about is of course a rework coming over to the minion dematerializer rune. It still acts the same, however, whenever you actually destroy a minion using this item, it doesn't give you extra damage to those minions. Instead now, it gives you bonus stats based on the type of minion destroyed. Melee minions give you armor and movement speed, caster minions give you magic resist and adaptive either AD or AP, and siege minions give you HP and also bonus damage to structures and epic monsters. But that right there is going to be it for this video, guys. If you enjoyed it, then definitely hit that like button. Make sure to share this one with your friends because there are of course quite a bit of changes. And other than that, guys, thank you all so much for watching. Make sure to check out my other videos as well, and I'll see you for the next one. Peace.